Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a bar graph in Excel, and we're going to end up with a bar graph like this one. So in this study we have two independent variables. We have study mood, and people were either happy, they're not put in a particular mood, or they were made sad, and then they were studied a list of words, and then they were tested either in a happy mood or a sad mood. And so these bars represent really 6 different experimental groups, and each one, this is a group average of proportion of items recalled, and this is an error bar representing the standard deviation for each group. And so that's a nice looking graph, and we're going to end up with this graph. But let me first show you, it's all about how you organize your data into Excel. And so whatever variable you want represented on the x-axis, you put as rows. So you can see I've typed in those labels there. And the variable that you want represented by lines, you put in columns. And this is the mean value for each of these groups. The standard deviations corresponding to each group appear, I just put them over to the side. So like for this group of 55, there was a standard deviation of 15. For this group of 40, or 0.4, there was a standard deviation of 0.10, right, and so on. And so each of these 6 correspond, they're the error for these individual group means here. That's key. So once you set it up right, it's really not hard to generate these graphs, but there are a few tricky things that you have to watch. So what I'm going to do is click on this and press delete, and we're going to start new. So what I would do is highlight the data, the mean value that you want to create. You're going to go to insert, and you're going to select bar. This bar, 2D column is what it's called. If you select the other bar, it'll be a horizontal bar, and you get a preview of the graph that you can start to change things. So one thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this title. We don't use titles like that. We have a figure caption. I want to get rid of these grid lines, so you just click on them, get rid of them. Next, I'm going to go to the axis. You can see the axis is kind of gray, which is kind of unfortunate that the default is that. So if you click on axes, and you go over here for more options, you get a little box that comes up. And one of the things that you can select is you can select the line, and you can see that it's basically a gray line. If we select a color, though, it'll make it black, and it's a little bit easier to see. See how that's easier to see? You'll also notice that the y-axis is missing, so I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. It has a white color, and we'll make that black, and so you can see that there's nice tick marks. And if you wanted to select tick marks, or needed to select tick marks, you can just click around and you'll find them. There should be some tick marks for this as well. Like if they had none, you would want to select, you cross or whatever you want, but just make sure that there's some tick marks. The next thing is you'll notice that the axes don't have any labels. We need some labels. So I'm going to close this and show you where we go to that. So we're going to go to that next, axis titles. So you just click on this, and you'll see that they kind of pop up really easy. And so what I'm going to do is click on it, delete this, and so this is the mean. This is our dependent variable, but mean proportion of items recalled. So you have a nice title like that. And you'll notice that it's a little bit big. It's filling up our y-axis, so I'm going to make it smaller. Right click on it, select font, and we'll drop it down to a 9-point font, and that'll make it fit a little bit better. So that's looking nice. For the x-axis, click on it again, and you can type in. This is study mood. Okay, and so it's starting to shape up. The next thing I'm going to change is this legend. You'll see it's down here at the bottom. That's kind of a weird place for it. I'm going to put it out to the side. So you click on legend, and click on legend and select right, and it'll be over here to the right. So we're doing good. Now we're going to change the bars, and we want the bars to be maximally different. So I'm going to make these bars black. So I'm going to just double click on them, and you'll get a fill option. And so we want the fill to be black, to make them black. And don't forget about the border too, because sometimes the border comes up. Don't forget to make that solid line as well. Oh, it didn't select all the entire series. So if it doesn't select the entire series, do this again and click on that. These weird things happen in Excel all the time. So the next thing we want to do is, while we've got the whole series selected, so all 3 bars are selected, is we want to do error bars. This is a little tricky. So you select on error bars, you're going to get something, but you go to more options. And what we want to do is we want to select the custom specify values. And so now it depends on which series you selected. So we've selected the test mood sad, right? So that's this column, the column on the right. So we're going to select these error bars because they go with it. And we'll click OK. Oops, we don't want both. So we're just going to pick the plus, and then we got our error bars going just one direction. In the line graph video, you'll see I do it in both directions for the line graphs, but not for bar graphs. Okay, so we're in good shape there. We got our error bars. Now we're going to do this same thing for this other series, but our fill here, our fill is going to be white, or you could select no fill. Border, you want a solid line because you want it to show up. Make sure it's black, right? Now we're going to do error bar. So we'll close this window out. Go over here. You can select error bars. You can see the default is it just gives you stuff, makes stuff up. Go over to more options, and now we want plus, and then we're going to want custom, and we're going to specify the values. But now we're in the other series, so we're in the sort of test mood happy. So we're going to select this values, and we got our error bars there. So everything should look pretty good. We're missing one thing. We're missing a test mood over here. So what I'm going to do is find the text box, and so it's over here under insert text box, and then you can just type in what you want. So we're going to type in test mood. Now we want the font to match the x-axis here, so I know from an earlier graph that that's a 10 point. And so we're going to move this around to make it look good, but that should look nice. Now one last thing is we're ready to pop this into Word, but if you pop this into Word, a lot of times you'll get a border around the whole thing. The trick for that is right click on the chart area and you'll see outline, select no outline, and you won't get that border. So now we're ready. We're going to Control C to copy it, and we'll open up Word here, and we'll get a blank document going, and then you sort of paste it in. We have a nice figure, right? We have a nice figure. You can start down here. You can type figure one, and of course this is italicized, and then of course you could finish your figure caption. But that's how you do a bar graph in Excel.